Well, we can see that Hayat Tahrir al-Sham's record is now being whitewashed by many instrumental actors in the world. So if you see
Interesting.
what, yeah, yeah, yes, because for the perspective and to expand the perspective of the audience as well, one has to remind everyone that Hayat Tahrir al-Sham used to be Jabhat al-Nusra.
Uh-huh.
And Jabhat al-Nusra was the branch of Al Qaeda in Syria,
True.
up until very recently, by the
Yes.
way. And no matter how much mainstream media organization in the United States with certain inclinations that align with the current US administration, they have conducted an interview with the leader of Tahrir al-Sham, Abu Muhammad al-Julani, or that's his nom de guerre, as they say. Uh, his actual name, they revealed, was Ahmad al-Shar. And he came with a trimmed beard and with a nice haircut and in a military, not a military fatigues or the jihadist outfits that they usually wear, but just in a normal uniform, very similar to that of the President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine. So it's quite fun, to be honest, trying to whitewash them. Those are jihadists and they are radical jihadists, and that's what they are. Unfortunately, this radical jihadist force, this force of terrorism, is the dominant force in Syria right now. And probably they will dominate any political process in Syria in the near future, and probably they will exercise control over a sizable chunk of Syria. They already control most of the Syrian major cities. They have controlled Aleppo, Idlib, Hama, Homs, and parts of Damascus. So they might even go ahead and attack the Syrian coast and take control of it. What's stopping them is the Russian bases that and the deployment of the Russian military over there, because they do not want to enter into an open confrontation with the Russian armed forces. So it seems interesting to see them as the dominant force. How will they play out? Will they be politically mature and try to be more inclusive towards other Syrian political actors? That's a possibility, a very remote one, but still is a possibility in these insane times we're living in, and excuse my colloquial language. And on the other hand, they might just be what they are. They just might be Hayat Tahrir al-Sham that we have known for the past 14 years, and they will just engage in a struggle with the other factions in order to impose control and subdue them to their will, in order for them to establish themselves as the sole ruling entity in Syria, and that's a possibility as well.
Okay. Dr. Osman, allow me also to ask you about what impact will regional dynamics have on Syria's political transfer after the fall of al-Assad regime?
Yeah, as I was telling you when I was answering the first questions, this will be instrumental because we have seen yesterday a very important meeting in Doha on the margin of the Doha forum, and it was between the three Astana foreign ministers, Russia, Turkey, and Iran, of the Astana framework that used to be the political framework of resolving the Syrian crisis before the fall of the Assad regime, and five foreign ministers from prominent Arab countries, Egypt, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Jordan. So it seems that there is a vested interest in including major Arab actors in the Syrian process, especially in supporting a smooth and peaceful political transition in Syria and engaging in the rebuilding of the Syrian state in terms of political development or even economic development. So maybe the Arab element of regional involvement might be more constructive than, for example, the involvement of Turkey or Iran, for example. And I see that if these countries together, along with the Russians and the Turks and the Iranians and these five Arab countries led by Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Doha and Qatar and Jordan and Iraq, if these countries come together in order to envision a certain pathway for stability in Syria, there might be then regional powers might actually have a chance of affecting positive change in Syria. However, if Iran, for example, insists on maintaining some sort of influence, and I don't think they maintain any influence anymore, their influence has been completely curtailed inside Syria. But if they try, I think we will be it will be a very destabilizing factor. And Turkey as well has to commit to the unity of Syrian territories and to commit to Syrian territorial integrity. And finally, we cannot forget Israel when we speak about the regional impact, because Israel already, after the fall of President Assad, has invaded and annexed or administered the land grab, basically, controlling Qnews and several regions within Syria, 5 kilometers deep. And this is a concerning development. And because the Israelis said that the 1974 agreement, de-escalation agreement between Israel and Syria is dead. And this is what Prime Minister Netanyahu said today, which means that they plan to permanently occupy not only the Golan Heights, but even more Syrian territories.
Yes. But Dr. Osman, I want to elaborate more on the role of the international community. How can international entities like the United Nations effectively support the repatriation of displaced Syrians and refugees?
Right now, for displaced persons and refugees to return to Syria, Syria has to be stabilized first. And Syria did not stabilize yet. If anything, on the screen on Qnews right now, I'm seeing thousands of Syrians are fleeing into Lebanon, which was just even going through its own war against Israel. So you can imagine fleeing one war zone to another potential war zone, because the Israelis might restart their attack on Lebanon at any moment, given the current circumstances. So it seems that the situation is not yet ripe for everyone, for the 6 million Syrian refugees to return to their countries. However, the UN does have a duty and a role to play in finding a political solution in Syria. The UN resolution 2254, Security Council resolution, puts a framework, establishes already a framework for a political settlement in Syria. I think everyone has to work within this framework. The Constituent Assembly formed by the United Nations has to be, of course, reformed after the fall of the Assad regime, and be more reflective of the diversity and the diversity of Syrian society and the different political actors in Syria, in order to draft a constitution. So I think this is what the UN has to do. And of course, the international community, including the UN, has to commit to supporting the Syrian state and maintaining the integrity of Syrian state institutions. Most importantly, the armed forces, it will be a grave mistake to completely disband the Syrian military, because this will just put them in the same predicament as what happened in Syria, what happened in Iraq, and what happened in Libya, respectively, 2003 and 2003.